In the Form Builder intro, we explained what all the features of the Form Builder can do for you. In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to build a form from scratch. We'll be demonstrating a 2-day club race, which is similar to any multi-day event or multi-segment event. Single-day events or single-segment events are even simpler. For this club race, I've already set up the 2 segments and all the associated classes and groups. Now I'm going to proceed with building the registration form. I'm going to begin by adding packages to the registration form for Saturday, Sunday, and Saturday-Sunday combined pricing. The first one I'll do is Saturday. It's going to be $250, and we're going to add an inventory item to go along with it so we can track how many of these are purchased. Save that and we'll see it pops up in the parts bin. Now I'm going to clone this to create the Sunday package because it's the same price, so that's faster. Change the name, leave the price the same, and I'm going to add another inventory item for Sunday, so again we can track them individually. Now I'm going to create a combined Saturday-Sunday option at a discounted price. The power of having packages and inventory items separately is that we can set pricing separate from quantity. This allows all kinds of creative pricing strategies while ensuring we never sell more than we want. For this package, we'll check both the inventory items, so when we sell one, it counts towards both. Now let's click Save and move on. Now let's put them on the registration form. We'll drag them from the parts bin onto the form layout. It can be a little bit tricky to drop things at the very bottom of the form layout, so sometimes it's easier to drop it at the top. Let's take a look at what this looks like so far. Okay, there they are, the 3 options. At this point though, we could check all of them. It's not usually what you want as the organizer. So let's use a group. A group in the form layout will make things mutually exclusive. By nesting our 3 packages underneath this group, they'll then turn into radio buttons where we can only pick one of the 3 options possible. Since this is the entry, we'll make it required. And now we'll drag and drop our packages underneath the group. Okay, now let's take another look. Alright, now we see we've got radio buttons. Now the items can only be picked one at a time. Now that we've got something for sale, let's go ahead and collect some entry information like car, number, class, and so forth. To do that, we use an assigner. We'll give the assigner a name. The first one will create an entry or an assignment in Saturday. We'll allow the attendee to pick their own class and group, but we could also force the assignment to a specific class. For most competitive organizations, you want to allow the person to pick their own class. We'll also let them pick their vehicle and their number. We see the entry pop up in the parts bin. Now we're going to clone it, and we're going to create the same thing for Sunday. And just like we did for packages, we're also going to create an assigner for Saturday-Sunday combined. The advantage to this is that it saves the attendee from having to select their information twice. They only need to enter their vehicle, car, class, and so forth a single time, and it will create 2 assignments for them. One in Saturday and one in Sunday. We check both boxes, leave the rest of the settings the same, and click Save. Now we only want the attendee to fill out this information after they pick the appropriate package. So we'll drag it and drop it on top of the package to nest it underneath. This means we'll only see the fields for this information when we select the package above it. If you're very particular about the order that things appear on registrations when you're viewing them as an admin, you can change the order that packages and questions appear by dragging them up and down in the parts bin. This is not often needed or requested, but if you're particular about the order, this is how you move them around. Okay, let's take a look at the registration form. Now that we've got our assigners nested underneath the packages, we can click one of the radio buttons and see the entry fields for vehicle, number, class, and group. We also have the option of forcing a mapping between a class and a group, so the person must pick the right combination. If we select one of the other registration options, we'll see the initial fields disappear and force us to only pick one at a time. Back to the parts bin, let's add some questions to the registration form now to collect additional information. This is information we want to collect on a per registration basis. T-shirt size is a common example in the event that you offer a free t-shirt as part of your registration. We'll collect the answer as a text answer, and then we're going to use our fixed answer list to force the user to choose from a drop-down instead of free-form text entry. This helps make your reports nice and clean because you only have your list of answers, not any answer the person wants to enter. This one we'll make required. We'll save it, and now we can drag it onto the registration form. Let's take a look at how it looks on the form. Okay, there it is at the top. It's a drop-down list of the answers we provided, and the green star indicates it's required. Now, what if we wanted to add a test day to this event, where people could register online for a Friday test? Well, to start, we'd probably want a new segment. This way we can create a separate entry list for just our testers. So let's begin with the Saturday list, and we'll clone it. In this case, it's not particularly useful to clone the Saturday, but we want to show you that it's possible when you're making similar segments. So let's change the name to test day. In this case, all we really care about are closed wheel and open wheel entries. So we'll select just those two classes for this segment. Down here at the bottom, you can see where if you wanted to map a class to a group, you could do so, and that would force the selection of a group based upon the selection of a class. Okay, our test day segment with closed wheel and open wheel classes. Let's go back to the registration form builder. And now we'll add a package for the test day for $150. We're also going to add a new inventory item so we can track the sales separately. When we run our ordered inventory report, this will then show us one count for each person who bought a test day, a Saturday, or a Sunday entry, regardless of how they actually pay for it or what the price is. Okay, we've got our package, so let's drag it onto the registration form near the top. And now we can see it shows up for $150. Normally, you would also add an assigner under this to collect the car and class information as necessary. How about we also collect worker registration? To do that, we'll start by adding a segment specific to workers. In most cases, you would also have classes that represent each of the specialties, like F&C, grid, safety, etc. For this sample, we'll just empty them all out. Okay, the segment was saved. Let's go back to the form builder and create a registration option for workers. First, we'll start with a package. In the case of workers, we'll make it a $0 package since there's no fee to participate. We're also going to need to add a new inventory item so we can track the worker registration separately from the race entries and the test day. We'll save it, bring it onto the registration form, now we'll create an assigner as well for the workers so that we can create an entry list from their registrations. Add a new assigner. In this case, we'll put it in the worker segment. And because currently we don't have our worker specialties filled out, we don't have the option to let them select it themselves. There's no vehicle or number or anything else. So just click Save. And now we can drag it on the registration form underneath the worker reg option. Okay, let's preview the form. There it is, it's a checkbox at the top. The problem is, we can pick worker reg and test day and race registration all at the same time. And although that's possible, most of the time the workers don't race and the racers don't work. So let's add a branch. A branch is a way of cleaning up your registration form by hiding all of the things underneath it behind a checkbox. In this case, we'll create two branches, one for workers and one for racers. Just like with the parts bin, I can clone items and all of their children in the form layout. So I'll clone the workers to create the racers. Okay, we've got our two branches. Now let's put our various options into them. We'll place the worker registration package into the workers branch, and we'll drag the remaining items, which are all race related, into the racer branch. Okay, now let's take a look at how this is going to appear. Now we've got two checkboxes, which hide all of the miscellaneous details beneath them. Since most of the time workers are only interested in worker info, and racers are only interested in racer info, this hides the other details from each group respectively. If they want to register for both, they can, but it cleans up the registration form by hiding unnecessary information for the majority of people. Let's take a look at every registrar's favorite package, a late fee. For this event, we're going to create a $50 penalty package for late entries. One of the tricks is to set the minimum purchase limit to 1, which effectively makes it a required item because the person must buy at least one. We're also going to create a new inventory item so we can track our late fee sales separately. We'll save it and place it on the registration form. The late fee is only going to apply to racers, so we'll put it underneath the racer branch. Now let's preview the form. Wait a second. The late entry fee is already showing up, and it's not yet after the cutoff date. Luckily, there's a way to restrict it to just after the cutoff date. Any element on the form layout can be restricted to a subset of the overall registration dates. In this case, we don't want the entry fee to start showing up until the 7th of March. We give it a sunrise date, leave the sunset blank meaning it will run until the end of registration, save it, and now we see the little clock appear on the form layout. If we preview the registration form, sure enough, we'll see the package is no longer there. Had we shown up on March 7th, the package would be here, and because the minimum is set to 1, we'd have to buy it. The last thing we're going to add to the registration form for this event is a compliance fee. Many racing organizations have a compliance fee for certain classes, above and beyond the normal entry fees. In this case, we're going to create an SRF and FE compliance fee for $10. We're going to add a new inventory item, again to track these sales separately. We'll save it and place it on the registration form. Now the problem with a compliance fee is that you can't trust a racer to pick it just because they're running that class. However, we have validation rules, and validation rules will allow you to take certain actions when someone makes a selection. In this case, we're going to add a validation rule to the Saturday and Sunday entry. There are several different types available. The one we care about for this case is when someone picks an assigner class. We also have assigner group, transponder number is valid, membership is valid, membership in this organization is valid, and the type of vehicle in their make and model pick. For this one, we're going to validate on the classes SRF and FE. And we'll add an action. If this rule is true, then we want to require the person to purchase the compliance fee. We can show an error, force them to buy something, make something unavailable, or for completeness, make something available. In this case, we'll require the compliance fee. Pick it from the pop-up box, and we can also add an additional error message reminding the person that they need to buy the compliance fee in this instance. Save it, and now we'll see a red push pin appear on the form layout, indicating this item has a validation rule attached. We need to do this for each assigner that we want to enforce the compliance fee for. So for the Saturday only entry and the Sunday only entry, we'll do the same thing. Verify against the assigner class. If it's true, we'll make the compliance fee required. For a real event, you might want to have a compliance fee for both Saturday and Sunday, as well as a compliance fee for both days in the event that someone picks both. For this sample event, we're just going to have one compliance fee. Now that we saved it, why don't we preview the event and actually test it? To give ourselves a little bit more room to preview, we'll use the Big Preview tab at the top. The functionality is the same, but this one uses the full screen. We can see our worker branch just like we had it before. Our racer branch just like we had it before, along with the compliance fee. We'll pick the t-shirt size since it's required. I'll choose a Saturday-Sunday entry, and you racers will have to forgive that my Miata is going to enter Spec Racer Ford. Pick the group. Notice the compliance fee is unchecked. Now we'll submit the form and see what happens. There's our error message in a big red bar at the top of the screen. Now we'll select the compliance fee, submit the order again, and see that it completed successfully. At this step in the registration process, the user would be asked to put in payment details if that was enabled for that event. Alright, close the window and back to the form builder. A final note about validation rules. A very common usage is to validate membership. This can be used to create member and non-member pricing for your events, where if the person does not validate as a member, they must buy the non-member package. That's all for this video. Review the rest of the documentation and screencast for the form builder for more information.